Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Hope you're doing all right. It is a bit windy, by the way, as well. So if a lot of wind comes, my bad. But yeah, I'm in my back garden today. It's a really nice back garden, isn't it? The sun's out as well. The view's unreal, man. I get on that semi for views. Honestly, I just love a good view. But yeah, this is my back garden. It's pretty cool. I might have to put on my glasses at times because the sun's over there and it's really sunny. Well, it's nice today at least, and it's kind of hurting my eyes at times. But yeah, this is my back garden. I feel like I should do a house tour sometime because I know it would bang, but like I hate videos like that, so I probably won't. My water's over here, by the way, in case you see me going over to it. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about why I was hospitalised for a potential stroke in a minute. Well, not in a minute, in a second. But first off, I just want to say, like, man, I woke up today, and I woke up feeling like so weird. It felt like I woke up anxious, but I don't know why I would be anxious. And I started asking myself if I was, and I just couldn't figure it out. It was like I had a pain in my stomach, but it wasn't like a stomach ache. It was like a weird feeling. So that's why I thought it was anxious, or anxiety. But maybe it's not. Like I haven't woken up like that in years. I'm like in my arms as well. It was like weak, but like something was like going through me, like a weird feeling. I don't know, fucking weird to get. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about everything that's been happening to me over the past 2 months because I've mentioned it like in videos, but I haven't mentioned it like as a whole. So yeah, right now I'm going to talk about why I got hospitalised for a potential stroke. I say potential stroke because, well, I'll get into it, but let's start on the 10th of December, right? 10th of December, well, 8th of December, I was in London, flew back home. It was after that storm Storm Dara, was it? Yeah, my flight got cancelled. Went to work on Monday, went to work on Tuesday. Tuesday, was having my break, finished my break. I work in a factory, or worked. I still work there, but I haven't worked in months. And yeah, I remember going to the toilet. I stood up off the toilet. My peripheral vision just went. But it was just my peripheral vision was kind of blurry, right? And I was like, what the fuck? This is weird. Never happened to me before. And I just didn't think anything of it. I was like, all right, maybe I stood up too quickly. You know when something like that happens and it happens for a second and it goes away. Washed my hands. It was still there. Walked into where I go to get gowned up. My peripheral vision was still like blurry. Just like over here and over here. It was just, I can't explain it. It was just blurry. It kind of felt like being like a visual sensation that you get when you're drunk, but it wasn't fully like, my whole eyesight wasn't blurry. Anyway, I get gowned up, I go to my machine, and I'm there, and I remember like almost straight away, I mentioned to my team lead, I was like, yo, my eyes are a bit blurry, but it's kind of gas. I said it as a joke, because I thought it would go away. And then I remember a few minutes later, I was working on my machines, and my machines are like very easy to run. And obviously when you start off there's numbers on the machine and they're hard to figure out. But because I had been there for like nearly 2 months, the numbers are so straightforward. And I remember looking at the machine, and the like screen was so blurry. The numbers are so straightforward, and I couldn't figure it out. It's like I was just thick. So I said it to my like team lead again. I was like, it's really weird. My eyes are still blurry. And then he was like, fuck, man, your eyes are really like dilated. So he told me to sit down. They got someone over to me, brought me to like, there's like a nurse and a doctor in the factory I work in. Went in there, and then I basically just started like, I basically couldn't stand. I got really lightheaded, and I was like on the verge of like passing out for literally like an hour or two. What else happened? Yeah, I couldn't walk, so they laid me down. I went from like being really hot to like shivering, and my body was going into shock, so I was like shaking like that. It was quite scary, but at the whole time I had like my mind and my humor was still there, so I was kind of taking the piss out of myself and being like to people like, what the fuck is this? But I was still kind of with it, you know, thank God at least. And I can't remember all my symptoms at that time because I was like ages ago, and I get like pretty similar things from then. But like, so for example, like I couldn't stand, I couldn't walk, I was really lightheaded. I was going in and out of passing out. I don't think I ever fully passed out, maybe once, but for the most part, I wasn't passing out. The left side of my body felt numb. My left arm felt really numb. I got like tingling sensations in my left arm and my left fingers. I couldn't feel my tongue at a certain point. It also just went numb. So that's why it's like, I'll get to it, but I basically mimicked a stroke. And so my eyesight went really fucked. Like it started off in my peripherals, then it went to my whole vision, and then after about an hour my vision came back, and it was kind of funny at the time. Looking back on it, it's a bit fucked, but the doctor was telling me to like get a taxi into to the hospital, and I was like, fuck that, I'm not getting a taxi, I'm not spending money, like, can I not just go on the bus? And they were like, nah, like, we don't want you to pass out on the bus. And then I was like, well, it's the same fucking thing, like, no. And then I remember, like, for a while I was like, I'm not getting a fucking taxi, it's gonna cost like €40 to go to the hospital, like, fuck that. So eventually she was like, and then eventually I was like, fine, I'll get a taxi. And then she was like, nah, you should probably get an ambulance. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm not getting an ambulance, cause like, I was clearly fucked, but because my brain was still like in it, it didn't feel as fucked. Like, I was like, this is put on, like, my body's just putting this on, like, cause my speech was fine and I could think properly, I was like, what's going on, do you know? So eventually we like spoke back and forth. I was like, I'll get a taxi. She was like, nah, you should get an ambulance. She was like, we can't like let the fucking taxi driver have someone fainting in the back. And I'm like, well, what is going on? Anyway, eventually I get an ambulance. The ambulance shows up, my eyesight comes back. I literally got so much better when the ambulance, just before the ambulance or the paramedics came. So annoying. I was like, fuck, did I even need a fucking ambulance? Freaking out. They put me in a wheelchair, brought me to the toilet, thank fuck, 'cause I was dying for a piss, and that doctor wouldn't let me go for a piss because I couldn't walk, so they didn't know how to like get me there or whatever. Wheelchaired back, put in the ambulance. I remember getting into the ambulance, and she was like, one paramedic said to the other, they were like, will we take it easy going in? And I was like, I was in the bed, like, they strapped me up, I was like, nah, whack on the lights. And then they were like, really? I was like, listen, if I'm getting an ambulance, I want to get like the full shebang. And then she was like, nah, if we do that, you're going to be thrown up all over the place. And I was like, come on, like, just for the one time. And she was like, nah, you don't want that. And I was like, all right, fair. Listen, it was worth a try, right? So I got a bit better in the ambulance. When they arrived at the doctor's place in the factory, they like checked if I was having a stroke as well. Did a load of like tests, I guess, I don't know what it is, like, where are you, things like that. And yeah, so I got brought into the hospital, and I was getting a lot better. And then it kind of happened at a good time, but I was sitting outside the like doctor's office that like assess you when you arrive in A&E, especially from an ambulance. Oh, I hope you can see me. This is on a towel, and the towel was kind of flickering up. And by the way, the story is going to be kind of long, so buckle up. And I over explain, but like, in a way, I want to explain everything so that I can come back to this video someday, or if doctors are fucking asking me what happened, I can literally just be like, I can look at this video and then recite to them what has happened, because I feel like I'll forget over time. So I do want all the little details. Anyways, outside the doctor's office in a wheelchair, and my eyes start getting really heavy. And by the way, like, the paramedic and my girlfriend were cracking jokes with me outside that doctor's office, telling me I have fucking man flu and all this shit, like literally taking the piss out of me. I was taking the piss back, and then out of nowhere, like almost wave 2 came, and like in the whole ambulance, I remember chatting to the paramedics being like, oh, do you feel like I needed the ambulance? Because I just felt better, and I was so annoyed that I felt like I was wasting it. But they were like, nah, like, clearly if you're almost passing out, the ambulance is the best thing to get. But, you know, in my head, like, you get an ambulance when your fucking house goes on fire and shit like that. So I thought I was wasting time or wasting space or whatever. Eventually, outside the doctor's office, my eyes start getting really heavy. I start going into a different phase of like passing out, where my eyes just really wanted to close. And I didn't, but I was like fighting passing out. And then they brought me into the doctor's office on the wheelchair, and this would have been like an A&E doctor, and he asked me to stand up, he asked me to walk, he told me all my symptoms, and then straight away he turned to someone else and he was like, bring him to the stroke unit. And that was like really scary, because it's almost like I got reassured in the ambulance that nah, it's probably not a stroke because you're doing better. And then in that moment they were like, bring him to the, like, they said something like stroke unit or like stroke ward. They said something stroke, and I was like, fuck. And then I said to them, I was like, they were like, bring him for like a, what, I don't know what I said. I think I said, like, in this moment in time, right, I had a fear, right? Unfortunately, one of my friends passed away, like a year or two ago, not 2 years ago, from a brain tumor. So I remember when he said something about a stroke, and he said that I was going to go get a CAT scan. I was like, can you tell the difference between someone having a stroke? Can you find a tumor in a CAT scan? And I think he said, like, I think whatever question I asked, they couldn't really answer, and my fear got a bit fucked over the idea of it potentially being a brain tumor, because my friend got diagnosed with one, and that I've had that fear since he got diagnosed. I don't know what it was I asked. Maybe I asked, like, can you, like, I think what happened was I knew that an MRI would clear the idea of it being a brain tumor, whereas a CAT scan wouldn't. It was something like that. Anyways, they were like, all right, get him to the stroke unit. Fucking sat back down in the wheelchair. Someone was like, did you do his bloods? They were like, no. In like 10 seconds, they just did my bloods. I don't really care about needles and shit like that, but they did it. This next bit was so overwhelming. They rushed me down to the fucking hospital to CAT scan place. Went in, like, flipped me over, put me on a bed, did a CAT scan. And this moment, like, I was semi-freaking out. Like, it was just really overwhelming. Like, you arrive at the hospital, you feel all right. Fucking next thing you know, you're on a CAT scan because they think you're having a fucking stroke. And other things that, like, kind of made me feel overwhelmed at the time was the fact that before, or kind of when I was at the doctor's office, the two paramedics that were there were talking about how they were just going to go get food afterwards. And I felt like they would just leave me after the doctor's office and then leave. But when I got rushed to the CAT scan, they came with me. And then in the room where the people are, like, doing a scan, there was like 6 or 7, there was like 4 nurses and 2 paramedics. And in my head, I was like, if I was better, I feel like there'd only be 1 or 2 people. You don't need that many. Like, my 2 paramedics would have went home, or went back to their job, but they didn't. So I was like, it was like little details like that I was adding up. I was like, this is fucking weird. Got back in, so did that, got back in the wheelchair. The next few hours are a bit blurry to me because it was kind of like quite repetitive. I think I went into a hospital bed, and almost straight away I met this consultant. I'm pretty sure he saw the CAT scan. And so for those of you who don't know, and I don't know much myself, but on a CAT scan you'd see like big things, but if I had like a small tumor or something small, you wouldn't see it. But for a stroke, it's quite big. So I remember the consultant came up to me and he was asking me questions. And he was like, he thinks it's an inner ear migraine, like almost straight away, like literally like that, right? And I remember like another doctor came up to me and she was like, this guy's really good at guessing things and he's always right. He's always usually right, but we're gonna like make sure it's not a stroke until we get the MRI. So for the next few days, I was just waiting to get an MRI, and I was basically just bedbound. They gave me a wristband to say that I couldn't walk anywhere on my own, because I actually physically couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair for like 24 hours. Like at night time, if I wanted to go to the toilet, I'd have to like ring an alarm and someone would have to like carry me into the toilet. I couldn't walk. I feel like at the beginning I couldn't walk because of my head, and then afterwards my legs went. I just couldn't use them. Like even getting changed or whatever, you know, I couldn't get changed by myself. It was actually like really embarrassing. But yeah, I spent 3 days, and then on the 3rd day they were like, all right, it's not a stroke. We think it's a migraine, a vestibular migraine. I was like, oh, grand. They were like, yeah, you'll be sound in a few days. You can go back to work in the next week or whatever. Like, you should be sound. Grand. Yup, buzz, not a stroke. Vestibular migraine. You're grand, right? Then, it sounds like pretty good news, no? Yeah? Obviously, it is really good news. But what happened was, I'm so conscious that this video is really long, but fuck it. What happened then? They diagnosed me with that, and then I leave, and about a week later, maybe 10 days, I waited like 10 days taking the medication or whatever. See, there's no medication for a migraine. You just take magnesium, but like just a normal dosage that people take for magnesium because it helps with sleep and brain activity or whatever the fuck. There's no medication. There's preventers when you get the migraine, but at the time they didn't feel like they were working. So I waited about a week, 10 days, and I called up my doctor. I was like, yo, something's wrong. Like my visual symptoms that kind of brought me into the hospital, I still have. And they were like, you know what, sometimes when you come out of a migraine, you're a bit sensitive. Maybe you're just getting a bit sensitive. I was like, all right, maybe I am. Another week goes by, I still have the same symptoms. I'm like, what the fuck? And go to the hospital again. In the meantime, I'd say like over the month of, from the 10th of December to the 10th of January, I'd been to the hospital like once a week. So like a week later, this was like New Year's Eve, I think. I went to my doctor and I was like, yo, You know, I'm still getting bad visual symptoms. I'm still dizzy, like, you know, when I experienced the migraine around the time of in the factory, something I forgot to mention, and I'll mention now, is like, you feel like you're drunk, you feel like you have 10 pints in you, my balance was gone and things like that, you know, and I would be slightly slurring my words. A lot of questions I was getting was like, have you been drinking or whatever? It's like, nah. Like, but anyways, back to the story. I was explaining to her, like, my visual symptoms are fucked, fucking can't walk. And by the way, if anyone's feeling similar shit like this, probably get it checked out. But I was just struggling to like walk and shit like that with my balance or whatever, and then they were like, okay, let's send you back into the hospital. Now at this time the hospital was like, all right, before that they were like, okay, we think you're just sensitive, you're just being sensitive, you just came out of a big migraine, because it took them 3 days to like figure out what it was and give you tablets, you're just being sensitive. I was like, all right, cool. Then like around New Year's Eve they were like, oh no, you know what it could be, your visual symptoms are still there, you probably just need glasses. And maybe there's like a weird coincidence where it like didn't correlate, but you got in a migraine around the same time that you probably needed glasses, and that's just it, that's why you have visual symptoms. And I was like, oh fuck. I didn't really believe that though, because both my parents got glasses, or they have like reading glasses, but they got it like in their 50s, and they were saying like, oh, did your parents get glasses young? And I was like, no. And then they were like, okay, well maybe it's not that, but we're just going to rule this out. A lot of the things that they were doing was ruling it out. By the way, just so everyone knows that when I was in the hospital, I got an MRI on my brain, MRI on my arteries, I got a CAT scan on my brain and I think I got one on my arteries, I got bloods done, every test came back perfect, which was a relief. That like initial fear that was somewhere in my body over the idea of a brain tumor was gone, because everything was just perfect, everything has been perfect. So then yeah, what happened was, went and got an eye test, went to ophthalmology, took a few weeks to get that because they were really busy, did an eye test, everything was perfect. Then I went back to the hospital and they were like, oh fuck, you don't need glasses. What's actually happening is that every day when you get these poor visual symptoms, you're actually going into a migraine. And I was like, bro, what? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, what? And they were like, take your medication whenever like it's like onsetting, like it's coming on. And I was like, okay, but the medication doesn't really work. And they were like, oh, just keep taking it. I was like, fuck. And then they were like, okay, we can get you an appointment with neurology, but sometimes that takes like 13 months. But they were like, oh, we think we can get you the ones in the next couple of months, because you've been into this section in the ward in the hospital. And I was like, okay, but like, does that mean that I'm like fucked until then? And they were like, they didn't like say yeah, but they were basically like, well, if you go to neurology, when you go to neurology, they can bring it from 1 migraine a day to 1 a week to 1 a month, which is helpful, but I got that news nearly 2 months ago, and my appointment's in May. And they said in the meantime, like, I can help myself try get out of it by figuring out my triggers and trying to avoid those triggers, and then also going to neurology, I can like mention things that I feel like my triggers are. But it's like, I get triggered by everything and anything, do you know? Right now I'm like doing everything that they said. They said drink 3 liters of water a day, have 3 meals, make sure your sleep is good, like la-di-da-di-da. I'm doing all of that shit. Lately I've started like the video I made recently, like I'm avoiding my triggers as much as I can, but the ones that I can't, I'm learning how to cope with them better rather than just like trying to avoid, as much as possible. So yeah, that's kind of what's happening. I told my doctor about that they're waiting until May, and my doctor was like, fuck that, let's go private. And she thought I'd get one in a private appointment at the time she said, oh, you'll probably get an appointment in the next month, but that was about a month ago. So it's a bit unfortunate, and like personally I haven't really improved at all since I originally went to hospital, because it's like one of those things, like I'm one of those guys where if I'm sick and I need to go to work, I'm gonna go to work. But in this environment, I know if I go to work, I'm going to pass out within the first 2-3 minutes. Do you know? I could only work in an environment with a fucking wheelchair, a blindfold on, and fucking insanely good noise-cancelling headphones. And the reason I'm saying a wheelchair is because I'm still going to get fucked, but at least in a chair, I could be like out of it, but somewhat composed. Like, it's fucking crazy, like, do you know? At my age, like, you never think something like this is going to happen. For so long as well. It's really annoying, like the whole like chronic side of it, like the fact that it happens like almost daily. And what I mean by almost daily is like, I might get a bad migraine one day, yeah? But that bad migraine persists over the course of like 7 days, where I get the same like bad migraine symptoms in terms of passing out, like spending hours trying not to pass out, or like for the whole day I don't have a balance. I'm just walking like I'm drunk. I'm slurring my words. I can't see properly. I'll get that for 7 to 10 days. And then the next couple of days I'll be really sensitive. And really sensitive just means like I still have my triggers, but it's so much easier for me to get back to that fucked migraine than how I currently am now. Like right now, I'm not normal, but I'm better because I had a bad migraine maybe 3 weeks ago now, and I'm on the other end of it where I'm still sensitive, but I'm not as sensitive as I was when I come out of migraine, but I'm not where I should be. You see, you're supposed to be in this level for a couple days. I'm stuck in a level of just being extremely sensitive, and the tablets don't really work. The first tablets that it gave me didn't work. The problem is like neurology will help give me preventers. That's what I need. I need something to better prevent the migraines, better pull me out of this like really sensitive scenario where like, you know, I crack my neck and I spend the next week fucking fucked. And you might just say, don't crack your neck. All right, cool. But like, there's about 15, 20 triggers, normal day habits that trigger me now. And I'm remembering every single one of them, but then you just always forget one, you know? But I feel like, you know, drinking the 3 liters of water and having the food has improved me a very tiny bit. I do feel a bit better, but it's really fucking annoying, honestly. And yeah, that's kind of what's been happening. So whenever I mention it, like, that's just what I'm talking about. And yeah, I feel like I should end the video soon because it feels really long. But a lot of people ask me, like, am I bored? And I think it's something that, like, they don't really understand. But it's like, you kind of would assume if I've just been at home for 2 months straight, like, struggling, I would be bored. But unlike fucking, I don't know, if you fucking break your leg or something, this is different in the sense that, like, it's different because every day, almost, I have like a mental and physical struggle. Whereas if I just broke my leg, I would be able to like sit on my bed and play PlayStation or whatever. I can't do that. You know, I'm almost fighting myself daily. If I was out of this, I could see the idea of being bored, but I don't have enough time on my own where I'm okay to be bored. So, yeah, obviously I'd like to fucking get back to work as soon as possible. But I know that's not as close to happening as I would like it. But yeah, I guess that's kind of it. I feel like I've said everything. I hope I have, at least. I'm trying to load random shit. Like, I have cold showers in the morning. I started taking Q10 the last day, which is like a vitamin. I'm taking other vitamins. I take magnesium. There's a load of little shit I've done to try and avoid my triggers, but like, you can't avoid lights in a room. You know, you can avoid them as much as you want, but I'm not staying in a fucking dark room forever. Like, you know, that's fucking horrible. But yeah, that's kind of it. This is my life right now, which is shit, but we're fucking getting out of it. Because fuck this shit, man. Fuck the lawyers. Nah, we're fucking getting out of this because genuinely fuck this shit. Load of fucking ass. But yeah. Oh fuck, the sun's in my eyes. What do you think? Nice view, yeah. I feel like I might make videos out here in the future. I don't know. My housemate's in the kitchen. Alright, I'm gonna go. See you. Fuck, that's probably really close up. I'll see you. Oh, something weird's on the window. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow, I guess. I want to make a second video today to post tomorrow so I can be ahead, but yeah, let's go.